Hey there, doll faces. I'm going to talk about raising your vibration now and keeping your energetic frequency high. I did some research recently to try and find out what kind of advice is available online for people who are interested in kind of reinforcing and shielding their energetic frequency, making sure that external circumstances and relationships don't chip away at it, kind of learning how to cleanse and strengthen the auric field, that kind of thing. And some of the advice that I came across was advice that I would consider to be somewhat heavy-handed and maybe questionable. So I thought to myself, I want to put a few of my own ideas out there, and I want to get very clear and real about what I think it means to hold your vibration high, completely regardless of how anybody else is holding theirs, or what anybody else is doing, or what anybody else is saying. You know, it's about being strong in your core and actually protecting your energetic field. And it's kind of like having that bubble around you which contains what you want it to contain and isn't kind of sullied by anything else that's going on, and is not absorbing loads of negative crap and kind of feeding it into your aura. This is something that I've spent a lot of time working on for myself, and it will be a work in progress probably for the rest of my life, but I would say that I've definitely encountered a few key ways of keeping my vibration high and just really enjoying having that energetic frequency that I want and not having to depend on other people or on the correct external circumstances to get me there. So the first thing I want to mention is that a lot of the advice that I saw online was kind of very clear on certain things that you shouldn't do if you want to keep your vibration high. And some of these things were really arbitrary. One was swearing. I read that a few times, that swear words hold low vibrations and they'll lower your vibration, so stop swearing. This is a projection, and I don't think anybody should take it too seriously without first thinking about how they personally process swearing and how they personally feel about profanity in accordance with their upbringing and in accordance with their culture and so on, because it's a very broad blanket statement and it won't apply to a lot of people. Profanity does not in any way lower my energetic frequency, and I can tell you that for a solid gold fact. In fact, in the right circumstances and in the right context, it actually heightens for me the vibration of the conversation that I'm having. I think there's something quite fun about profanity, and I think you need to maybe learn how to use it skillfully, kind of artfully, because it's very punchy and it is a form of verbal punctuation, I would say. And it kind of stresses the point, and it's fun because it's forbidden, because when we were children we weren't allowed to do it. So in adulthood we're free to swear. Fuck it. So what I would say is, normally somebody who professes to know that swearing lowers your vibrational frequency, that person actually will find that their vibrational frequency is lowered by swearing, by other people swearing. But that doesn't mean in any world that other people's are. The most important tool that you'll ever have at your disposal when you are thinking about maintaining your frequency the way you want it to be, maintaining your mood the way you want it to be, ensuring that the energy around you is buzzing correctly and at the right kind of speed that you want, the most important tool you'll have is self-awareness. The journey is intrinsically individual, and it's not something that can really succumb to blanket statements. That's actually somewhat wishful thinking. Those who find that their vibrational frequency is lowered by profanity, there's nothing wrong with that at all, but I think it's important to own that and to understand for yourself how to deal with it. And there are two ways that you can deal with it. You can either acknowledge honestly that swearing lowers your vibrational frequency, and then you can implement techniques to allow you to catch yourself in the act of allowing your vibration to be lowered and actually learn how to shield it, how to maintain it, how to hone it, how to keep it strong. Or you can go the other route and you can immediately judge the person who's swearing and decide that maybe they're less spiritual than you because they're swearing, maybe they don't understand anything about their own energetic frequency because they're swearing, so they must be lowering it. And actually what you're doing when you opt for this second option is you're lowering your vibrational frequency even further, because you're slipping into judgment and you're slipping into projection and you're slipping into these kinds of things. So what I would say is it's important to understand for you yourself what lowers your frequency and deal with it from a person-centered perspective, rather than going into attack mode, because really swear words are just words, and actually we assign meaning to those words through our specific consciousness, and each consciousness is individual. So let's not forget the impact of individual consciousness here. And if swearing lowers your frequency, then it's up to you to own that, and it's up to you to work with that, because people will swear. So you need to be prepared every time somebody swears in your presence to ensure that your vibration is not kind of knocked off its perch by that. That's way more important than kind of evangelizing from the rooftops that nobody should swear, I think. So what I was saying about projection, often when we talk very broadly and very emphatically about what lowers the vibrational frequency, what kind of concepts, what kind of conversations, what kind of music and TV programs, etc. When we talk emphatically about that from a broad blanket perspective, we'll often find when we actually get down to it that we're projecting. We're taking whatever it is that we feel personally lowers our frequency, and we're kind of professing that is the case for everybody, and that's just not true. It's really important for you to check in with yourself and to know for yourself what it is that chips away at your vibrational frequency. And for a lot of people, it's going to be some of the relationships that they're having in their lives, relationships in which it's particularly difficult to use your personal power, or say no, or have your own agenda, or not feel like you're being pushed or pressured, but you also don't feel like you can take distance. So it chips away at your vibrational frequency, and you don't have kind of the tools in place to deal with that. For other people, it is going to be certain kinds of messages in the media, certain kinds of press that report things in a certain way, anything that feels like propaganda. For other people, it's going to be specific foods which are low vibration. For me, I find one of the lowest vibrational things in this world for me is racism. It instantly chips away at my vibration, and it kind of absorbs itself into my vibration. And actually, it's my responsibility to hold my vibration high, and I know that, but it's one of the key things that I find it very difficult to implement techniques for, which I can actually really go with, which really work. And I'm working on that. You know, I'm working on strengthening that, because why should I let somebody else's consciousness and somebody else's ideologies mess with me and interfere with my day and interfere with what I'm doing? So even though I can intellectualize that certain problems are important and that we need to deal with certain things and we need to strike up a dialogue about certain things, I can't be that change that I want to see in the world if my vibration is constantly being interfered with by these things that I find to be difficult to handle. So it's my responsibility, as a light worker, I guess you would say, as somebody who wants to step out in the world and bring a certain energy to the world and help other people to raise their frequency too, it's my responsibility to know how to handle those low vibration times and how to keep my energy strong. So that's just one example from my own life of something that I find it very difficult to deal with in terms of keeping my vibration where I want it to be and making sure that it's not interfered with or messed with. Another thing I read on the internet was that certain kinds of music is low vibration. For example, music that has to do with hatred, that has to do with anger, heavy metal music, that kind of stuff, and that kind of stuff needs to be kind of like ousted from your musical collection because it's low vibration. I think, again, this is really quite a dangerous idea. First of all, every kind of music, it's true, holds some kind of energy signature, but the energy signature will change dependent upon the consciousness perceiving it and absorbing it. And I know I keep going back to that, but it is so important when we look at this kind of advice, which is so emphatic. We need to remind ourselves that this is the case. When I was a teenager, I listened to a lot of heavy metal, black metal, punk, that kind of stuff. And I still enjoy sometimes listening to that now. And I pay attention to how my energetic frequency is responding and how I feel about it when I'm listening to it. That's the important thing for me. And I take note of when I might need to listen to something else or when I might need to listen to something specific. For me, music is very often a remedy. It's something that I can shamanically select in accordance with what I need in that moment and in accordance with what's going to fit for me or what's going to help me to do something. And quite often when I'm experiencing anger, when I'm experiencing the need to release, that kind of thing, I just love to put on a bit of Slipknot or Meshuggah or Life Once Lost, or and it feels great. It feels awesome. As somebody who used to self-harm for 7 years, let me tell you now, angry music is a positive way to process whatever is going on within you that matches that anger vibration. It's a positive way to process it. There's nothing negative about it. Sometimes you use music to transport you to another vibration. Sometimes you want music which empathizes with your current vibration. And that's good too. That feels really good too. So I think it's important not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, especially when it comes to metal, because it has a good, strong place in my heart. And what else would I say? Some of the advice was to stop watching the news, stop informing yourself about the ills of the world. I experimented with not watching the news once, actually. I didn't watch the news once or read a newspaper for 6 months, and I wanted to know what that felt like and what that did to my vibration. And this was quite a few years ago now, but a lot was going on, you know. There was like, like the elections were happening in this country and stuff, and I was thinking, God, I don't even know who's Prime Minister. It was quite a long stretch of time, but I did it, I committed to it. And you know what, it did change my frequency, I'm not going to lie. It did do something to me. It calmed me down a little bit, and it freed me up. It afforded me some room and some time and some space to think about other stuff. Which is always the case when you cut one thing out of your life, something else can be permitted to predominate that you might have overlooked before, and that can feel very interesting and very nurturing. But it's not something that I would make a habit of, for the simple reason that I feel that I need to be connected to consensus reality, and it's already hard enough for me to do that, actually, because I am what Jung would call an introverted feeler. So it's already really difficult for me to get a handle on consensus reality and not feel that the tangible realm actually interferes and interrupts the important inner work that I'm doing. So as an intuitive feeler, I feel I need to keep my hand in. The other reason I don't think I would stop watching the news and being informed is because I want to know what I can do. I want to know what petitions I need to sign, what charities I need to donate to, if there are protests going on that I want to be at. I don't attend protests very much anymore, but there are the odd ones that I feel it's important for me to rock up for. And the third reason that I wouldn't stop watching the news is because I feel that it would be all too easy for me as a privileged, white, Western person that lives in a first world country and is surrounded by abundance. I think it would be very easy for me to shut off from the fact that not everybody experiences what I experience, and that in this lifetime a great many people are suffering in a way that I will never have to experience. And I think it's very easy for us to flippantly kind of say, well, I can't handle the news, it lowers my vibration, so I'm not going to watch it. I remember doing some volunteer work for Amnesty International during a time when Palestine, large parts of the electricity in Palestine had been cut off. There were sanctions, nobody could get through to Egypt to get any food. It was a complete nightmare, the markets were empty. And I remember doing some work at the Amnesty International offices where we would just sit around and actually call numbers in Palestine and try to get through to somebody with a phone line who could speak English, so we could get some proper information out of the country on exactly what was going on. And that was for me my way of saying, we're here, we know, we see, we care, we give a fuck, and we're doing what we can do at this moment in time to connect with you as human beings and to let you guys know that we do care and we are trying to help and we see you. I think a lot of people don't understand how important it is for those who are going through something very scary and very tragic just to be seen, just to feel like somebody is acknowledging your pain. You know that they can't go through it with you, but you feel that they acknowledge it and you feel less alone because of that. And so that's the third reason that I wouldn't stop watching the news, I guess. It was a bit of a tangled route towards that point, but yeah, that's the point I'm trying to make. I can't remember if there were any other advice. Oh, I read one piece of advice that was like, let go of all low vibration emotions. So resentment, anger, disappointment, fear, sadness, etc. Just release them, it said, as though it's that easy to do that. I'm not trying to be facetious or cruel here at all. I'm just trying to make a point. I'm trying to convey a point about the very real importance of self-awareness and self-assessment when you're thinking about raising your energetic frequency. The importance of that can't be stressed enough, frankly. You are here on this planet, I think, to experience the whole range of emotions, the whole spectrum, the whole gambit. And your emotions are, they're not you, neither are your thoughts, in fact, but your emotions are definitely not you, and they shouldn't dictate the way you respond to certain situations. There should always be that ability to step back and observe yourself in the act of experiencing an emotion and know that the emotion is not the fact of the matter. Just because you feel something is this bad doesn't mean the reality is actually this bad. So even in itself, experiencing negative emotions is somewhat of a training scheme for us as human beings to help us to understand how to strengthen, how to connect with our soul, how to connect with our deepest insights, and how to know that we don't need to allow our emotions to rule us or to lead us down a negative path, doing something which is against our core principles or feels out of alignment with who we are, that kind of thing. So emotions are the training wheels in this spiritual experience we're having as human beings. And I also think that when we attempt to suppress our emotions, they tend to predominate. I really believe that whatever we suppress in the psyche predominates. Whatever we try and ignore, whatever we try and deny, whatever we refuse to work through is what will keep biting us in the arse time after time after time. So this idea that we should just strike negative or low vibration emotions that don't feel very nice from our experience is actually quite a scary idea for me, and I would hope that there aren't people out there, and I'm sure there are, but I often find myself hoping that this state of being would be eradicated, this state of being where people actually try and strike anything negative or anything that doesn't feel too juicy from their experience, because actually sometimes the best thing to do is to work through that stuff and see the other side of it. And I always say, you know, sometimes it's like a tunnel. You can't go under, you can't go over, you can't go around, you've got to go through. And once you've been going through for long enough, you'll hit the light. If you're not hitting the light after a certain amount of time, it's because you're in the middle of the tunnel freaking out, thinking I need to go back out the other side, I need to go back out the other side. You need to keep powering through and experience that, learn from it, grow from it, be more because of it. So I think this idea of striking anything that feels nasty from our experience as human beings is actually quite wrong. And I wouldn't say it's wrong, I would say it's dangerous, I would say it's maybe a little inconsiderate. I want to encourage anybody who crosses my path to really go there and to know that they can support themselves through that, and to understand that if they keep running from it, it's going to keep appearing, it's going to keep showing up. This is something that is really a universal experience, and I'm sure that pretty much everybody watching this can understand what I mean by that, that when you try and run, you eventually realise there is no place to run. You need to process that stuff. And when you are advised to forget about it, you know, people who suffer from any kind of depression will know what I mean. I'll forget about it, or just get over it, just ignore it, just do something else. This advice is difficult for people that are going through something very complex and painful, because it instills a lot of guilt. It makes people feel like they're not entitled to have those emotions, or it makes people feel like they're burdening other people with those emotions. It makes them feel a responsibility to ignore or deny certain parts of themselves which really may need to have expression of one kind or another, verbal, creative, whatever, spiritual. So I would say that's also kind of very damaging advice in a lot of ways. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about what you can do to raise your vibrational frequency, to keep it ticking over where you want it to be, to understand your energy and how it works. Starting with the chakra system is a really good point. It's a good point of beginning. The chakra system, you may choose to move on from it and implement other systems or implement your own thing after a while, and that's fine. But the chakra system is a holistic system which is very highly utilised by a lot of people, and a lot of people actually resonate with it. In fact, I had chakra experiences before I knew anything about the chakras. I knew chakras existed, but I didn't know, you know, colours associated with them, properties associated with them, body parts associated with them, asanas associated with them. I didn't know any of that stuff, and I had experiences that I can now look back with hindsight and say with certainty that they were experiences of my etheric field, of my aura, of my sacred energy centres. And so that's really interesting. It's almost like it's permeated through into our consciousness now. It's such a widely used, widely appreciated, accessible, flexible in a way system that you can take as deep as you want to take it. I think it's permeated almost into the collective unconscious, because I had experiences that I didn't realise I could connect with the chakras, and actually it turned out I could. Working with the chakra system is a really useful starting point. Once you get the 7 key chakras kind of down in your mind, and you start doing some visualizations or some guided meditations using YouTube videos, that kind of thing, once you kind of worked up them in a string and gotten over that idea of them as an abstract concept and actually started to experience them as an etheric thing, then I think you can move on to working with each chakra individually, and this is where it gets really exciting, because this is where you can repair holes in your vibration, you can repair holes in your own energy field, you can stop stuff from leaking in, and you can do that by identifying which chakra actually associates most closely with the negative stuff that you're experiencing, which is messing with your vibration, and you can actually work on activating and cleansing and cleaning and healing that chakra in the moment. So if you're having a really difficult conversation with a family member that always tends to make you feel tense and always pushes your buttons, and you can't leave the situation for one reason or another, but you feel that you are really being, the vibration is getting chipped away, you're really kind of being brought down energetically and things just don't feel right, you can actually, once you've become skilled enough at associating with your chakras and what each means, you can kind of, you know, if you wanted to experience more security, stability, grounding, you want to feel strong in your core during the conversation, go to the base chakra, activate the base chakra as you're talking, work with it, notice it, acknowledge it's there, and repair any holes. It becomes more and more organic and easy to do this as time goes on, so it really is an incredible tool. And it helps you to have some kind of focus point for which part of your vibration needs help, or which part of the aura has some kind of interference going on with it, or just how in general you can focus on bringing things back to the self when the external circumstances are chaotic. So it's a really useful thing to do. And another thing that I would say is, I'm going to kind of come back to where I brought things in here, self-awareness, understanding how certain things make you feel is so important. When you look at lists of things online that are generally associated with the lowering of the vibration, you might see things like certain foods, certain kinds of TV program, that kind of stuff. That's all valid advice to look over and kind of bring it back to you and ask yourself if it means anything to you. And you've got to be clear and honest about it, you know. If you watch loads of like soap operas and loads of entertainment programs that are based on schadenfreude and jealousy and kind of bitching about each other and stuff like that, if you enjoy that stuff and that's kind of a part of your weekly life, and you come across some content on the internet that tells you that it's lowering your vibration, you don't need to take that hook, line and sinker. All you need to do is understand that over time it's been generally considered to be something that a lot of people have stated is low vibration, or it kind of messes with their vibration, and then take that back to the self. Always filter things through your own intuition, through your own sense of your core, through your own sense of self. That's a really important thing to do. Similarly, if you come across content that says that you know, you should stop watching the news, think about what that means for you. Think about how that feels for you. Is that something that perhaps you do need to try, or are you just kind of watching the news filtered through weird resources that favour propaganda or biased reporting? Maybe you need to think about those things and how they affect your vibration. I'm not saying don't think about them, I'm not saying don't implement the advice, I'm saying that it needs to come from here, it needs to come from self-knowledge, self-awareness, self-assessment, and that's always what it should be. So really, maintaining a high vibration is a very personal journey, and you can bring your own story to the table, because every story is unique, and the techniques that you can implement are unique, the techniques that work are unique to you. And so it's really important to check in with yourself and know that you are defining your techniques and implementing your tools through what's appropriate to you, and I think that's so important. But I would definitely recommend working with the chakra system, even if it's just simple and quick exercises every day. If you learn how to work through the 7 key chakras, then you will always have that basis for returning to the core and kind of acknowledging that something is not quite right with the vibrational frequency, and that you can do something even in that moment to heighten it and sustain it. So that's something that is just a really terrific tool that I would recommend people use. Just before I end this video, I just wanted to say I've put out a little free e-guide for you guys called 50 Joy Tips. It's a 16-page e-guide which just gives you 50 tips which might help you to heighten your vibration and get in touch with what it means to you to have a healthy energy and to maintain that and to shield yourself from anything outside of it. So I think it would be great for you to maybe download it. It's totally free, and just look through, see if there's anything that you're not currently implementing that you potentially could. And lastly, there's a lot of advice out there on the internet for empaths, but this could be useful for you even if you don't identify as an empath, for the simple reason that you will find that a lot of the lowering of the vibrational frequency comes through as the direct result of interactions in human dynamics. And so even if you don't consider yourself as somebody who very easily and perhaps sometimes unwillingly absorbs the emotional spectrums and the emotional experiences of others, you could still benefit from some of the advice that is out there for empaths. And some of that advice is much more holistic and makes kind of much more sense from my perspective, so it might also do from yours if you're a regular watcher of mine. So yeah, if you are struggling with heightening your frequency, maintaining your vibration, feeling like you're strong in your field and your field is not necessarily interfered with by what's going on outside, you can still function, you can still think objectively, you can still love yourself, you can still be in touch with your sense of personal power regardless of what's going on. That's what it really means when you have a high energetic frequency, and you can kind of make the best of things, and you can interpret and reframe things so that they make sense to you and so that you can deal with them. You can recalibrate when you need to, you can understand your needs. All of that kind of thing is involved in what it means to be the master of your frequency. And if you are struggling with it, I would recommend taking a look at some of the advice that's out there for empaths, because it can apply to a lot of other people as well. Okay, much love for now, guys. Blessed be.